In this video, we are going to be looking at calendars. Now, as you can see, there are two different kinds of calendars. The first one is calendars that have been set up under Teams and calendars that have not been set up under Teams at all. If you've been using the platform for a while, any calendars that you may have created beforehand will be here under unassigned. These individual calendars can be linked up to Google Calendars to sync across. The new calendars, which you see to the right, which have team names up the top, can have multiple team members assigned, and those people can have their calendars synced to their Google Calendar. It's a slight difference, but as we go through, hopefully this will make more sense. So let's have a look at Teams. Depending on your user permission, you may or may not be able to see this, but if you're an admin, you will be able to set up your teams. So within your platform, you will be able to set up your employees and anyone who is a user. Now, if you come across from team management to teams, you'll be able to now set up your teams. At the moment, this only interacts with the calendars, so set this up with the calendars in mind. You could set up a marketing team, a sales team, people who specifically deal with one thing, whatever you need to get your calendars working. For the purpose of this video, we're going to set up a sales team and a sales calendar. So we're going to start by going and adding a new team. The first thing you'll be able to do is set up the backend for your calendar, and that is choosing anyone who needs to be on this calendar. So let's say myself, Samantha, and Edward are part of our sales team. We can choose who we want, and we can also give this team a name. Once you've got your team set up, you will come through to the calendar team configuration. The first thing you'll need to do is name this calendar. Now, anything that you do here will be visible to the customers in this section under team calendar configuration. So let's call this calendar, and we'll give it a description. And then you can give this a slug. So let's call this one sales team. It will then check to see if this slug has already been taken, and I have used this before in another demo. So let's call this one, great, so that's free. Now you have a little bit of an option down the bottom. So you can assign contacts to their respective calendar members each time an appointment is booked. So if you have a new lead coming in from a website or a Facebook ad or a funnel, they probably won't already have a team member assigned. So if you want this person to be assigned to whoever takes the call, you can assign them to them here. If this calendar was to provide services to already existing members, you might not want them to get assigned to a new user, so you can leave this turned off. But if you want this turned on and you want them to be assigned to someone else, you can skip assigning contact if they already have an assigned user. So it's pretty good. If you don't want them to be assigned to anyone at all, you can turn this off. Or if you want to have them assigned to someone, but they might already have someone else assigned, you can get this set up that way. So we're going to go save, and we're going to move forward to the next step. Now we've come back across to calendars, we can see this widget here for the sales team. Before we go any further, I'll show you what the customers can see already, and I will do that by clicking on this widget URL slug here. Your customers will go to a web page. It will have the name of the calendar and the description that we have given it here. If you want to change what they see here, you can go back to the setup and you can change it in your team settings. Now, the way to think of setting up these new calendars is to think of it as offering a product or a service. So as you can see over here under support team, which I have already set up, we have given 3 different types of support services that people can book in for a support call. So if we click on this one and show you what this will look like when we've got it set up, your customers will be able to see any of the products or services that they have set up underneath. So those are those 3 ones there that we got set up. And when they click on it, they will come through to the calendar. So now let's walk through how to set up those calendars. The first thing you want to do is find the team and then click New Calendar. The first thing you'll be able to do is check who is responsible for these calendars. So if we go back to this example, there might be 3 people on this team, and you want all 3 of them to take the community support calls and the premium service, but you only want 2 of them to take the video support call. So in that case, you just choose who you want from your team to take these calls. Then you can choose whether this is optimized for availability or optimized for equal distribution. If you choose optimized for equal distribution, then that will mean that it will round robin assign it to whoever is next in the queue. And here you can put in their Zoom link, or if they have a physical office, you can put in their physical office location. Otherwise, you can optimize for availability. That means you can put Edward as high priority, Samantha as medium priority, and myself as low. If you had multiple people in the team, you could have multiple of these set up. This means anytime it goes to book in an appointment, it will see if anyone with high priority is available first, and it will assign the appointment to them. If no one with high priority is available, then it will look through all of the medium priority and assign it to someone there. But if an appointment comes in and there is no one with high or medium priority, it will apply and assign that calendar appointment to whoever is on low priority. Next, we're going to name this calendar. So this one's under the sales team. We might call this book a sales call. And then the next thing to do is give it a description. So actually, let's change this to book a consultant call. And then we can give it a calendar URL slug. So it will be widget/appointment/ the name of the overall calendar that we gave it. And now we can put in what this actually is. So we'll call this consult. That means if they visit this slug, they will get the choice of whatever ones you've got set up. But if they visit this full slug, all they will be able to see is that one calendar itself rather than all of them. The next thing to do is to choose what you want the appointment name to be. By default, it is the contact's name, but you can make this whatever you want it to be. And also you can change the calendar color so it stands out from the rest. Moving forward, we'll click save and continue and come back to the top. Next is slot duration. This is basically how long do you want the meetings to be. So if you're having a 10-minute phone conversation, we'll make these 10 minutes long. Next is slot interval. This is just how often they will appear on the calendar. If you've got this set for 30-minute intervals, your customers will be able to book appointments at 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30. But because this is a 10-minute duration, we might only have these set up for 15-minute intervals so that people can book more often and they have more choices. So that means they'll have the option now to have a booking at 9, 9:15, 9:30, 9:45, 10, and so forth. The next is a buffer duration between appointments. That means that if you have a lot of appointments, you don't want to have them back to back. You might say that you want at least a 10-minute gap in between the appointments, which allows you a short break between them to get prepared for the next one. Next up is appointments per slot. If this was a group class, you might want to have more than one appointments per slot, but this is just limiting the amount of people who can book in for that time with that person. If you have 5 people on the calendar and one person takes a 9 a.m. appointment with your first user, then that slot will still appear open and someone could also book another 9 a.m. appointment with a second user. It just means that 2 people couldn't book the 9 a.m. slot with user number 1. Appointments per day is how many appointments you want that user to take per day. Even though they might have their appointment availability open from 9 to 5 and there are 1-hour calls, you might want to limit it for them to only have 2 per day. In the case of this 10-minute appointments, you might want to limit them to 5 per day so they can still get on with their other work. Next is your scheduling notice. This is the amount of time that they have between when they book and when the availability shows up on the calendar. So for example, let's say the time here is 1:45. You don't want someone to be able to book in at 2 p.m. and only give you 15 minutes notice. So here you can choose how many hours, days, weeks, or months that you could put in as a minimum scheduling notice. So if we just put in 2 hours and it's 2:45, they won't be able to see any appointments till 4:45 or whatever intervals that you have set up. The date range is events can be scheduled over the next n days. So let's put this in as 7. That means that events can be scheduled in over the next 7 days. That means that they'll be able to book in from now until 7 days ahead. Depending on your business will be depending on how you want to get this set up. And now most importantly is the office hours. This chooses when the calendar is open and available for people to book in. If all of the days are the same, the easiest way to get this set up is to choose the hours on one day. So let's say 8:45. And you want the calls to end at 4:30. You'd go 4:30 p.m. and you can click apply to all to have those carry across. If you have a break in the middle of the day for whatever reason, if this is one person or a lot, you could have it from 8:45 to 11:30, and then you could set it to go again from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And you can again apply this to all if you want. If you want to take out ones for certain days, or if you want to put in extra hours, you can do that. If you want to take off certain days, you can add them back on, but those will disappear. And it is fully customizable to whatever your hours are. So let's say that's all good. We'll go save and continue. Now this is just the last little bits that we have to set up to get your calendar going. The first one is what form you want people to see when they book in an appointment. You can choose a custom form and it's any of the ones that you've already got set up, or you can use a default one, but let's say that we're going to go with the tutorial calendar form. If that form's already set up for sticky contacts, that little option there will disappear. But if that form isn't set up for sticky contacts, it will appear and you can turn that on from the back end. Next is use Stripe payment if you want them to pay for the appointment they're about to be booking. You can set that one up from in here. You just choose the currency, choose how much it is, and you can have a little description as well. Coming down, you have a couple of different options for notifications. Here is let the calendar auto-confirm your appointment. If you want to make sure that you're sifting through who is and isn't booking appointments, you can turn this off. And in your calendar settings, you will have to approve every appointment before they are finalized. But we will leave that on because we want all of the appointments for this calendar to be confirmed. Next, you can send appointment alert emails to the assigned team member. This means that if you're currently using triggers to send emails to your users to say, hey, you have a new appointment, you can turn those off or you can stop setting those up, and instead you can do it through here. But if you've already got those triggers set up and you like how customized they are, then you can simply turn this off. Next is allowing Google Calendar to send invitations or update emails to attendees. If you turn this on, it means it will send them an invitation to add it to their Google Calendar. If you leave it off, it won't. And then next, you can allow them to cancel or you can allow them to reschedule. But if you want them to reschedule or cancel and you want them to actually have to pick up the phone and call you or text you, let you know, you can turn this off. Leaving it on will just give them the option to cancel or reschedule from the notes that you give them. After that is the Facebook Pixel ID. So if you've put in your Facebook Pixel ID, you can create conversions in your Facebook Business Manager. So you can trigger conversions when the page is loaded, and that would be a Facebook page view, or when it's submitted, and that's a Facebook appointment book. So if you don't know what a Facebook Pixel ID is, you don't have to put it in, don't worry about it, and you can move on. Next is custom code, and that includes CSS and JavaScript. If you know what to put in here, that's good. If you don't know, don't worry about it. Next is form submissions. You can either have a custom thank you message that will appear once they've booked their appointment, or you can also have a form submit redirect URL, which will take them to whatever web page you want to take them to. So let's leave this on custom thank you message and let's click complete. And there you have it, that's just appeared here. And if you want to see how that looks, you can just click the little widget underneath and it will take you to that calendar. Here you'll see we have the name of the team, the name of the calendar description. It is the end of the month and we did have Saturdays and Sundays turned off, but you can see whatever availability that we had set up. And if it goes through to the next days, we had it set up for 7 days, so you can see a couple of days ahead as well. Once they choose a date and a time slot, they'll have a bit of a summary down here. If they're not in the same time zone, they can choose which one they are in and it will adjust the times for that time zone, which is really fantastic if you're dealing with people all over the world. And then they'll get the choice to continue. And here they'll be asked to fill in any of the details from the form that we had set up. So first name, last name, phone and email, any additional information. And also because we turned on Stripe payment, this is asking them for their credit card to pay for booking in this appointment. So that's what they see on their end. Let's come back across the settings and finish setting this all up. So next to calendars here, you'll see calendar preferences and calendar code. If we go to calendar preferences, we can fine tune how we want these to be set up. So we can start the calendar day on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And you can also choose what language your widget is in. If you want, you can change this across a 24-hour time format, or you can leave this as 12-hour time format. The next option is your calendar code. Here we have a couple of options on how to send your calendar out to people. First thing you want to do is select which calendar you want to share. You can choose the team and share the team's overall calendar, or you can even check which one specifically it is. So let's go sales calendar, and under that we had book a consultant call. And as you can see, the option has popped up to dedicate calendar URL. So if you hover over this, you'll see it explains to you by turning this on, they will not be able to access the back button on the booking widget. So let's take, for example, this one over here. If you give them the option to look at the whole team's calendar, when you see it, you'll be able to choose community support, maybe change your mind and go back and choose a different one. As well, if you sent them the calendar individually and you just gave them that link there, they can still hit that back button. But if you didn't want them to be able to hit that back button and you only wanted to send them the option for premium service and you didn't want them to know that you had a video support, what you can do is come back in here, choose the team, choose the calendar, turn this on, and as you will see, it adds in a little bit of extra code and a bit of a longer URL to make sure they can't click that back, and it is the individual dedicated calendar. Now here's something very important to note. With the old calendars, anything under unassigned, you can't choose what the user is, but you can set this whole calendar up to sync to a Google Calendar. So let's have a look as a bit of an example at this one called 20-minute booking phone call. We'll click the three dots and we'll click edit. Now the first thing you'll notice is at the top you cannot choose which users come under this calendar. But in the old ones you could link the whole calendar to a single Google Calendar as well. But what you could do is sync this calendar to a Google Calendar. So that means you could have linked this one to a Google Calendar, select which Google Calendar you want from all of the emails associated with it, and choose if that was a one-way sync or a two-way sync. Now with these new ones, because there is multiple people assigned to the one calendar, you don't want these all to go back to the one Google Calendar because you'll have a whole bunch of different people's bookings on your calendar and you don't want that. So what you do is you sync up your profile with your Google Calendar, and that means any appointment from any calendar that gets assigned to you will go back to your Google Calendar. So we'll come across to profile and we'll just scroll down a little bit until we see calendar configuration. If you can't see calendar configuration, that means that you haven't got your Google Calendar configured with your account. So to do that, you just come up, go to integrations, and you can integrate your calendar. If you've already got one set up, you can add another account and you'll have to integrate all of the Google accounts for all of your team members. So once you've got that set up, you will be able to see this. Now that you've got your calendar integrated and you can see this calendar configuration window, you want to come under primary calendar and click edit. Here's where you'll choose what calendar you want to add new events to as they're scheduled in your platform. So it will prompt you with which calendar should we use to sync, read and write events to. Here you choose your email address with your Gmail calendar. Once you've selected your Google Calendar email, it's going to prompt you to choose your primary calendar. It's saying, I can see all of these calendars that are set up under your account. Which one do you want to make your primary calendar? So we're going to pick this one, which is my email address. So now at the moment, if you book in an appointment here in your platform, it's going to come across and appear in your Google Calendar. But what happens if you book someone in your Google Calendar and you want it to come across into your calendar here? We've got to set up the primary calendar properly. So we want to choose which is the default calendar that we have assigned to us, that we want the calendar appointments from our Gmail account to appear on. The only one that I have available is the one we just set up, which is book a consultant call. Once you choose that, it's going to ask you if you want to allow it to run triggers. So if you have a bunch of triggers set up in your platform that when someone books an appointment, they get an appointment notification and appointment reminders, then you need to choose if you want these to be able to run when someone books in the appointment in your Gmail calendar and it comes across here to your platform. So if the only time you're booking appointments on your other calendar is specifically for what you've chosen in your default calendar here, then sure, you can choose run trigger. But if you've chosen to have dinner with your grandma tomorrow and you don't want her to get some random triggers, then you can just turn this to don't run trigger. It all depends on what you want to do. So once we've got that set up, we'll click save. And here you can see we have a little summary of the primary calendar. Just below it, we have check for conflicts. This means that you can check other calendars to make sure there's no conflicts or double booking happening when you are making an appointment. If you have a public holiday calendar, for example, you might want to turn it on so there are no appointments booked when you're not there in the office. Or if you're managing another team and you have a calendar set up for that team and they have an appointment booked or some kind of meeting and you want to make sure that you don't get anything booked in when there is something on that calendar. So all you do is check for conflicts, click edit, and you can choose any of the other calendars that are there for conflicts before anything is booked for you. So let's do that and click save. So now before it makes any bookings for yourself, it'll check your Gmail calendar and it will also check these other calendars before it makes any bookings for you. Now finally, we just have a couple of little things to touch on before you're all good to go. So if you come across to your appointments, you'll be able to see any of the appointments that people have booked in. If this has been done with one of the new calendars, you'll be able to see who the appointment owner is under here. To book a new appointment from the appointments view, you just click on schedule appointments and choose the calendar that you want to book in with. So if we choose one of the calendars that has been set up with a team member, so let's go premium service, you can see that you now have the option to round robin, which will just assign it to whoever randomly based on how you've got it set up, or you can pick a specific team member and you can assign this appointment to them. Then you just come down, choose the contact name for whoever you are setting this up for, put in all of the details and hit save down the bottom. With your appointments as well, if you had it turned on so the appointments aren't automatically confirmed, they will appear here as pending, and you'll just have to come down and click on it and confirm it. If you have any triggers set up for if they've been rescheduled, cancelled, or no-show, this is where you can change the status of the appointment. Also, a fantastic feature for larger teams, maybe not as relevant for smaller teams, is the reporting tab. So this is a demo account, we aren't really taking appointments, but you'd be able to see how many appointments have been booked, confirmed, how many showed up, no-showed, cancelled. You'll also be able to see all the breakdowns for who was taking the most calls in your team, how they've been booked in if you've done it manually or if you've done it through a funnel. It'll tell you all the funnels that they've booked in from to show you which of your campaigns are getting the most people through and which is getting the most results. Now, to get this calendar out to people, as we showed you before when we were in the settings, you can give them this link here, the link for the individual calendar. You could use the embed code to put it in your website or your web page or wherever it is. You can also put your calendar into a funnel page. To do that, you just load your funnel, choose to insert a new element, choose the calendar, and then choose either which calendar you want to use as an individual situation. So you might want to put in this one we had set up the other day, which is video support, and it will just show that individual calendar. Or if this is part of a bigger option, when you chose that, you could have gone to this calendar, use team page, and then select which one you want. That then will give the option to pick whichever one of those calendars that they want to choose and give them a little bit more option. So that is Calendars. That is how to set up a calendar, how to choose the time, how to configure the calendar to come across to any of your Google calendars, and also how to get this calendar out to your customers so they can book in your appointments.